Okay. How's everyone doing this morning? Uh, well, the wife has gone back to work. That means it's just me and the puppy home by our me, the puppy and the kitty home by ourselves as it has been, as it normally is. Tell you, having my wife home every day for 3 weeks, which is how much vacation time she ended up having to take. I really wish we had known that she was going to be taking that much vacation time. We don't only thought she was only going to take a couple of days, and so we didn't plan anything. But every her work ended up calling her and extending her vacation so that she wouldn't lose any days. She ended up taking 3 weeks and a day off, and then she works. Let's see, she works today and tomorrow. That's Tuesday and Wednesday. Thursday she gets off at she gets paid for a full day, but she only works 4 hours. Then she's off Friday, of course, with Friday being the 4th of July. So yeah. And then she'll be home again for another 3 days. So okay, and what is just beeping at me now saying Trump threatens to re-examine government support for Elon Musk. Oh wow. Yeah, I know I reached my targets for. Yeah, my son's I was sitting there and I got a notice, hey, that my son's Instagram had a new post to it. And I'm like, what the hell? I didn't even know he was still doing uh Instagram because I mean I hadn't seen anything from him in years on it. So I called him up and asked him what was going. Well, he happened to call and was talking to the wife. And I asked him, "What's going on with you and Instagram? I haven't seen you on it in years." He goes, and that his response was, "I haven't been on it in years." I said, "Well, somebody's posted on your Instagram. I just got notification of it." So I don't know what he's done, if he went to see if somebody hijacked it or not. I got notice that somebody's Google account was reinstated, and their first name begins with the same their last name is the same last name as mine, and their first name begins with the same initial as mine does, but they've got a bunch of numbers after their last name. And for some reason, Google attached their account to my email. So I checked into that and it's like, no, Google, no, I got nothing to do with this guy, just or this person. I don't know if it's a guy or a gal. I mean, it could be a female. I mean, male and female's names both begins with the same letter and sometimes the same name. But anyway, so what am I going to start off with here today? Let's start off with this Bob Vylan, VY, not Dylan, but Villain, that happened in Glastonbury at the open air concert they had that was broadcast on the BBC. Now, evidently, ooh, that pie looks good. Just got notification of a new pie recipe. Speaking, quick aside, speaking of pie recipes, I absolutely hate pecan pies. They are just too stupid sweet. I don't like them. Well, yesterday, as I am wont to do, I'm perusing, internet, and I come across a website that specializes in 100-year-old lost recipes. And they had a pecan pie recipe that did not use a lot of sugar. And in fact, it was a recipe from before Kara's syrup was invented. And it's more of it uses egg, and it's, it looks like it's more of a pudding consistency than like you would a blueberry pie or something like that. So I am going to give that a try and see if I like that, because the wife really likes pecan pies, and I always make her one. Just because, just because I don't like them doesn't mean she didn't get her pecan pie. But okay, Ramen, your avatar is not appearing. I got the XSplit broadcaster avatar image. So anyway, let's go to this Vylan. Now, I uploaded these to X this morning, these videos, so that I could show them to you, because evidently there's a problem with this thing showing the audio otherwise. So now BBC refused to show a British or an Irish group called Kneecap, I think was the name of it, because they would be too controversial. So they showed this group instead, this guy instead.
Free, free. All right, but have you heard this one though? Death to the IDF.
Now he had cheered that, he'd led that cheer, free Palestine, several times. Not just once, but several times prior to this.
Death to the IDF. 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 Hell yeah, from the river to the sea, Palestine must be, will be, inshallah, it will be free. Free, free.
And the BBC broadcast that. Now, Ramen, get your avatar and I'll pop you back in as soon as your avatar shows up. I'm just afraid of doing that your camera will come up instead of your avatar. So anyway, this Bob Vylan did this, and the BBC broadcast it. Well, they got lots of complaints. They got a whole lot of complaints over it. Let me see here. Let me unshare that, and we'll go to I'll show the next video here that they did. All right. So let me share this one real quick. This is another camera angle. Now, this is somebody else's TikTok channel. It's kind of hard to find. Now, this was the easiest way to get the videos, to be honest.
Death to the IDF. Death to the IDF. Hell yeah, from the river to the sea, Palestine must be, will be, inshallah.
All right. Stop sharing that. And finally, so the State Department, this guy, and the reason why I'm showing this guy, not because I'm angry and don't like what he said, which is true. I don't. You know, uh, chanting for the destruction of Israel, leading a chant for the death to the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces. Then, of course, the river to the sea comment, which again means the eradication of the country of Israel and all Jewish people. And am I really surprised that the BBC broadcast that? No, even though the BBC is now saying that they're going to investigate how that happened and they shouldn't have done it. And remember, Britain recently sentenced a woman to prison for praying in her head, silently praying across the street or too close to an abortion center. They sentenced a man to prison for street preaching the gospel. He wasn't using a megaphone. He wasn't yelling and screaming. He was just standing there with the Bible in his hand, street preaching. He was arrested and sentenced to prison. Another woman was sentenced to prison for an offensive post on Facebook, offensive to Muslims. This is all the UK. These are all British citizens. White British citizens who are Christians sentenced to prison for street preaching, an offensive post against Muslims, and praying too close, praying in her mind, in her brain, silently praying too close to an abortion center. Now they're saying they are investigating this guy and the Irish group for violating laws. But when especially this guy here, when I see that they, read that he was actually convicted and sentenced to prison for what he said, I'm not going to believe it. It's it'll be situation normal for the UK. The Muslims actually shut down streets now in London 5 times a day for their prayers. But a street preacher is arrested and charged with disturbing the peace and being offensive speech. But, so we'll see what happens here. But that, there's some controversy as a result of that. Some controversy has erupted. And again, I upload this video to X this morning so I could show it easily.
What you're referring to is our Deputy Secretary of State, Christopher Landau, that the State Department What you're referring to is the tweet from our Deputy Secretary of State, Christopher Landau, that the State Department has revoked the U.S. visas for the members of the Bob Vylan band in light of their hateful tirade at Glastonbury, including leading the crowd in death chants. Foreigners who glorify violence and hatred are not welcome visitors to our country. This is not about the nature of a concert, I suppose, but it really is about our standards, about who we let in the country. That we're not telling people what they can sing about or what they can say. It's not involved here at all. So it really is about the issue of national security, about issues of violence, the increase certainly of anti-Semitism, but of terrorism in general.
So yeah, there's just a little bit of controversy here, and am I glad that they had their visas revoked? Yes, I am. I'm very glad they got their visas revoked. We have got enough anti-Semitism in this country without importing it and allowing a man that we know is going to be anti-Semitic to come into the country. So, of course, the left isn't happy with that. They're calling it a violation of free speech. Hey, Fury, how's it going? Yeah, I'm talking about your country here this morning. This morning, my time, afternoon, your time. What happened over in Glastonbury and Bob Vylan. The first time I heard the name there, I thought they were, and I have a feeling he did this intentionally, a play on Bob Dylan. And I thought that's what they're talking about when I first heard, started hearing the news reports. But Bob Vylan, and that sort of, his last name, okay, yeah, he fits that. He's being a villain of sorts. The Villian, villain. So how are you doing this afternoon, Fury? I hope you're having a good day. Been a minute since I've seen you. Well, yeah. I just find it amazing the way the UK laws are working now. Tommy Robbins spends a lot of time in and out of jail, in and out of court. And let me do a quick conversion here. Let's see here. Whoops. Okay. Today it's where I live is supposed to get to 35°C. That is the straight temperature with a feels like of 43.3°C. So, yeah, 15°C is too hot. No, you don't want to come to Florida because it's a feels like a 43°C, I imagine, would absolutely destroy you. But that's the humidity stepping in there and just absolutely, and absolutely causing cringe, you know. But the 35C is what it's going to be, straight temperature. So that you would not like it here right now. I remember when I was in Germany. Let's see. It's a lot easier for me since I've got the chart up. Um, they had a heat wave of 21C in Germany, and people were falling out. And we're sitting there going, "You've got to be kidding me!" I mean, that's didn't bother us at all. Oh, most of Canada lives within 100 miles of the northern border. So, yeah, you're right. Most of Canada doesn't live that far north. No. Reminds me of a video I just saw this morning. This lady is sitting there, and at first I thought it was a skit. I really thought it was a skit. And if it was a skit, this woman is a great actress. And the look on her husband's face was, I mean, he did a good job with that look on his face. But she was swearing up and down Alaska is an island because of the way when you pull up a map of the United States, they have Alaska as an insert. And they don't show it being connected a lot of times to Canada. They just show the state, the silhouette of the state itself. And she was using that imagery to prove that Alaska was an island. Hey, Mr. Gamer, how's it going? So you now are, and ironically, I'm talking about Alaska as you pop in. So you have officially retired now. Congratulations. I hope you wanted to retire and that you were ready for retire. And that you weren't forced into retirement. I don't know if anybody's ever really and truly ready to retire. My wife swears she is, but she wants to work she has to work another 3 years. And funny story about your retirement. Well, here, let me go ahead and why don't you pop on in? I don't think he's going to move to Florida. Nobody really moves to Florida especially from Alaska. Let's see here. Could have swore I had. Oh, Lord, old guy. I could have swore I had your DM, but I don't see it here anywhere. Well, I'll just paste it there. What the hey? I'm always up for a good story about people going into retirement. Oh, okay. Well, all you need really is a microphone. You know, Fury, I was brought to Florida at the behest of Uncle Sam and ended up married and having a kid that was in school. And when the wife and I were looking at actually moving back up north, back up to Ohio, the kid had to go and get married and buy a house down here. And it's like I was not moving away from my grandson. So, and when my mother died, I was going to, we seriously considered signing over our inheritance and just taking on the house. Take over her house as our inheritance and my share of the inheritance, and let my brother and sister have all the cash. But well, Raman, I'm sorry things aren't going well again this morning. Oh, you're absolutely right about that, Fury. Florida is that place that we've got alligators, crocodiles, and I can't remember the third one. Third prehistoric overgrown lizard that likes to eat living things, meaty things. But we got all three of them native to the state. They're not imports. Nah, we got those too, but old guy, but there's a another distant relative of the alligators and crocodiles that lives down here, down in the marshes. And yeah, the caimans. Thank you, Fury. Uh yeah, and speaking of which, alligator. I wasn't going to bring up alligator Alcatraz, but why not? President Trump, DeSantis, and a bunch of other people are going down there today to they've got it done evidently, and this ready to go, ready to start accepting the first of 5,000 illegals. And they're saying they're going to be trucked in and flown out. And the local Indian tribes down there are a little upset because evidently there's a couple Indian tribes that within about 20 or 30 miles of this airstrip, and they're a little upset about it because well, they're upset about it. And but it's from what I've seen, it's nothing more than a tent city. Hey, morning, tall person. What you up to today? Man, I'm getting a lot of names popping up here today. But yeah, it's going to be trucked in and flown out is the motto of the place. I just know, with the being out in the middle of the Everglades like that, I would not. No, thank you. Thank you. No, no, no. Truck around and find out. Uh, there is a grass that I'm thinking about planting in my yard. What's it called here? Uh, Da is perennial peanut. I'm thinking about getting that planted in my yard because it supposedly that's as tall as it gets with the little yellow flowers. And the wife would absolutely love that. If that will grow in my yard, the wife will absolutely love it. Have all the little flowers in there, and then she won't, we won't have to mow it no more. Hey, Data, good morning. So if that's really it, if that's how it really looks, I'm definitely going to find out where I can get some grass seed, and I'll start planting that throughout my yard, and hopefully it'll take over and kill the weeds and everything else. Because I just have to run the weed eater every now and again and be done with it. That's the way it looks. The I don't know if I grew up with clover fields, and I don't know if I'd want clover as a yard. The dog would probably love it, but I don't know. But that perennial peanut really looks nice. I'll have to talk to the wife about it and see what she says because I really think she'd like it. Put the lawnmower up for sale. All right, what am I doing here next? AOC. You plugged your yard in. What'd you plug it with there? Oh, fescue. What does fescue look like? I'll have to take a look at that. FESC. Fescue grass. Oh, drought tolerant. Oh, that's nice. $584 to do 500 square feet. Wow. Does it grow very tall, or is this like you don't have to mow it once you grow it once it's there? Because neither one of us really want to uh, be out mow. We're tired of dealing with grass. I mean, we're tired of lawn mowing. The wife likes to go out and play in her flower beds and such, but mowing the lawn is just we're done with it. About 3 to 4 inches. Okay, I can live with that. Fortunately, I don't live where they have an HOA. We don't we do not have an HOA. When we bought this house, we were talking to real estate agents because you have to go through a real estate agent anymore to buy a house. You're not allowed to go out and just buy one. You have to go through an agent. But and we told her that if she even thought about showing us a place in an HOA, we'd fire her and get a new agent. So we were not going to do that at all. What did Horseface do this time? Well, that's Horseface there. She's been bragging about her Bronx roots. Well, I'm just going to show a little bit of this guy's video. I'll post a link to it. But this is a 13-minute video that or 11-minute video this guy has. And here's a link to his video. And he does a deep dive into where AOC is from.
She's from.
Now remember, okay, and before I go there, where is it? She just made a post on X how a Bronx girl, she's from the Bronx, and Bronx girls eat Queens guys or eats men from the Queens, talking about Trump being as Trump is from the Queens. So, she's been really playing up this tough Bronx girl persona that she's developed over the past 8 years. But this guy has, he's sort of shattering this.
Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Bronx. This is where AOC says she's from. And this is where AOC is actually from. Welcome to Yorktown, the business hamlet of Yorktown Heights. There's mansions everywhere. It's beautiful, it's green, it's pristine, it's clean. And they even have a Christopher Columbus Society. I thought AOC got all those statues ripped down. Some structural racism right here in AOC's hometown. Today,
yeah, she's as street as Prince Harry. You're right about that. But yeah, this guy has really done a deep dive onto where she's from. Let's see here. Come over to here. Oh, cotton picking. How did I get an ad?
I got this car
I
recently,
watched through this
and look how
video
much I was
already
paying for insurance
entirely this
before.
morning.
I used this website, and
this is where AOC got the idea for the Green New Deal. That's what we'd all be driving in if AOC got her way. Do you understand? She grew up with the horse and buggy. That's what she wants us to go back to. Get it? You got to think like her. So depressing. With my made from scratch cinnamon rolls, my ice cream. Thank you. What a terrible life. I hate capitalism. So angry. In there, a lawn gnome might jump out at you. This is AOC's street that she grew up on.
In fact, AOC's childhood home is appraised at close to $500,000 right now. And across the street, a Trump yard sign. Trump 2024.
Anyway, this guy's video is absolutely amazing. It is fun. All right, but I am even going to the left-wing website Snopes. Okay. The current biography on her official website as of June 2025. Born in Parkchester neighborhood of the Bronx, Alexandria's parents moved the family 30 minutes north of Yorktown in search of stronger public school for her and her brother. Alexandria's mother was born and raised in Puerto Rico and worked throughout her childhood as a domestic worker. Alexandria's father was a second-generation Bronxite who ran a small business in the Bronx. Throughout her childhood, Representative Ocasio-Cortez traveled regularly to the Bronx to spend time with her extended family. Now, I grew up on a working farm. I also had I spent years on a working farm. I also spent years in living in town, spent a few years living in town to where I could walk, literally walk across the driveways to an ice cream shop, Dirty Bill's. And across from Dirty Bill's was the church we went to, across the street. So I could walk to church. And that's where, for many years, our scout meetings were held. So I walked across, I mean, I could walk to my scout meetings. I could walk to get ice cream. I could walk up the road about a mile to my best friend's house. And then we moved back to the farm again. So, I mean, for all but 4 or 5 years of my life, out of the 18 years living at home, I was on a farm. But I don't discount, the few years that we lived in town. Oh, and one of the farms, and the reason why I call this other place a farm, the second place or third place we lived, the farm, is we had about 6-7 acres under plow. We didn't have any animals besides cats and dogs, but we did have about 6-7 acres under plow, growing veggies and such. Could not grow potatoes will save our souls. We tried year after year after year to grow potatoes, never could. So we traded sweet corn with a friend of ours. For every bushel of sweet corn we gave him, he gave us a bushel of potatoes. So yeah, we did a lot of trading of sweet corn because we could grow some sweet corn now. But that traveling back and forth to the Bronx for AOC is what, that she just traveled back and forth to the Bronx to visit, and that made her a Bronx girl. Now, here is the house that she grew up in. Her dad bought it for $150,000 20 years ago. Her mom sold it in 2016 for $355K. It's now worth over $500K. Now to be honest, that's a fairly modest house. It may be a 2-bedroom house by the looks of it. Depending on how far back it goes, it may only be a 2-bedroom house. So is it a mansion? Is it one of those multi-million-dollar homes? No. And to be worth $500,000 now, like I said, that's a pretty modest house for the region. For that area. But it's not living in an apartment over a grocery store or over a corner store like some of the stories was that she had. And that, her upstairs neighbor, she said, what's this? I've never seen one of these before, talking about a garbage disposal in the sink. She didn't know how to use it. Who what? Oh, that was Kamala that said she cooked collard greens or soaked her collard greens in the bathtub because they were so good. But New York Post here, AOC breaks silence on suburban yearbook pic, but still clings to Bronx girl claims. There's her senior picture where everybody called her Sandy. They didn't call her Alexandria or AOC or anything else. They called her Sandy. Ooh, what's wrong with living over a Chinese takeaway there, Fury? Seems like you just had to walk down the stairs to get some Chinese food. Democratic Congresswoman's Bronx girl claims have come under fire with folks in northern Westchester community remembering her as Sandy Cortez from Yorktown Heights. She's embarrassing herself for doing everything possible to avoid saying she grew up in the suburbs instead of the Bronx. State Assemblyman Matt Slater said Sunday. She said she visited her extended family. She said she's commuted and that now she's in between. It's clearly desperate attempts to protect the lie that she was in the Bronx. Now she did, supposedly, from everything I've seen, when she was 5 years old is when they moved out of the Bronx. Now, I do not remember much about my life before when I was 5 years old. I remember getting attacked by a blue jay. I remember the first movie I saw was That Darned Cat. I remember, playing with ducks and such, but that's about it. That blue jay attack is the one I really remember, though. That sucker, my head bled for quite a bit. That thing hurt. That blue jay attacking me. Yeah, that tall person. That was the first movie I ever saw. Was That Darned Cat. We made stir fry last night for supper using some leftover rice and some beef strips I had in the freezer and some veggies we had laying around the house. Made up some Americanized stir fry, a little soy sauce, a little hoisin sauce, leftover rice, the meat, some veggies. I'll guarantee you I wasn't hungry 30 minutes later, but then I had a big salad to go with it. But yeah, she's come out there yelling that she wants to impeach Trump for his perfectly legal actions in those Iranian airstrikes. So people are coming out after him again, coming out after her in retaliation. I'm going to be, I'm just going to be honest. my opinions on AOC's. She's a joke. She's her and the entire squad are a joke. The problem is they get so much positive publicity, and they've gotten so much positive publicity that absolutely nothing's going to hurt her. At this point, they are. Oh yeah, they are definitely astroturfed. I thought what's that? The one that said F Trump. I thought she was still in there. Who is left of the squad in Congress? Well, Cory Bush is still in there. Oh, now Jamal Bowman lost, if I remember right. Oh, no. You're right. Cory Bush did lose. Yeah, you're exactly right. Cory Bush is out. So it is just did Tlaib lose? Is it just Omar? Did Tlaib lose? I thought she was still in. Okay, yeah. So yeah, still got Tlaib, Omar, and yeah, the Cory Bush is the only one that's gone now so far. The other three are still there. Bowman, he was a wannabe. He was never really part of the squad. He just sort of made himself. Oh, you can hear me on your phone? Great. Nah, they're still cussing. They're Fury. They're still out there cussing away, thinking it's cool to cuss. And let's see, I can close that one. I can close that one. So, hey, Spanky, you woke up, huh? Okay, buddy. Spanky was asleep on the far end of the couch. He just woke up and come over and climbed up on my lap. I tell you, there is none of them women I want to see on OnlyFans there, Fury. There is absolutely none of them I'd want to see naked. Not even AOC, and she's the best looking one of the four. But the rest of this time, with today being July, and it's kind of ironic, July 1st, in 3 days, we're going to celebrate the 4th of July, Independence Day. And I find it ironic the number of new laws going into effect today went into effect as of 1 second after midnight last night. Now, one of them is called, and it's It's been a law in a lot of states for a lot of years. And it's called, where you're not allowed to use your cell phone while you're driving. But there's a couple of states that have really, really, really taken it to a limit that is absolutely crazy. California courts ruled that holding your cell phone while driving is illegal. Even holding a cell phone in your hand to check a map for navigation is now considered illegal under the latest California court ruling. And the reason why the reason why I got this is because Pennsylvania just enacted this law effective today. Now, a lot of states, you're not allowed to talk on your phone. You can't hold your phone up to your head. You can do hands-free, you can do Bluetooth, whatever. But now they're getting to the point, and California here is one of them, that if the cop even suspects you're touching your phone, it's a ticket. They don't have to see you touch your phone. If you take your hands off the steering wheel, even if you're sitting at a red light, it is possible that you get a ticket for this. Now, I'm not saying holding your phone. I don't like the people driving down the road with the phone pressed up against their head. I don't even, and cops are the worst at it, but they're exempt under most of these states have got exemptions for police. They're allowed to do it. Like they're allowed to be on their computers when they're driving. They for some reason they don't get distracted. As soon as they put on that uniform and crawl in their police vehicle, there is now impossible for them to get distracted. Yeah, I've heard of that, but I haven't seen the actual law there, old guy. That's but I mean, that's just as distracting. I mean, shoving something in your face, you got the wrapper covering, you blocking your vision. You get the mustard or ketchup dripping down your chin onto your shirt, and you're trying to wipe it off before it stains. Now, I've got texts programmed into my watch, that I can, uh, you know, send the wife a text that I'm on my way home, or that I'm, stopping at Winn-Dixie, or I'm stopping at Walmart. But I've got those actually programmed into my phone or into my wristwatch. Yes, I've got a Samsung smartwatch that I can do that. I love my smartwatch. So I rarely pick up my phone when I'm driving. If I'm having to use the navigational aid, I've got a little suction cup thingy on my dash that I set up the Waze to show me the navigation. But I'm one of these people that, I've got a Bluetooth on all the time. I mean, literally, I've got I even sleep. No joke. I even sleep with my Bluetooth on, with a Bluetooth, because my tendonitis will keep me awake. So I have to listen to something to fall asleep. And I don't want to disturb the wife, so I got use an earbud to fall asleep by. So, but yeah, I mean, I use so I answer the phone using my Bluetooth, or I listen to my audio books answering, via Bluetooth. I get in the car. Once I got my phone set up, it sits down in the passenger seat 99% of the time, and I never pick it up again. Because if I've got to send a text to the wife that I'm stopping somewhere, I do it from my watch. But but just the idea that you're sitting at a red light and you pick up your cell phone to send a text to your spouse, or to look at a navigational aid at a red light, and you can get a ticket for that. That is beyond stupid. Now, if you're sitting at that red light and the light turns green and you don't move because you're not paying attention to that red light, to that traffic light, and the cars behind you start laying on their horn, then that's a different story. Now you're impeding traffic because you're distracted. But if you just pick up your phone real quickly and you set it back down and you haven't done nothing, and if you take your hand off the steering wheel and the cop writes you a ticket for that, I'm not happy with it. I'm not happy with it. And that this is the kind of law going into effect across the country, 3 days before the 4th of July. Driving with bouncy kids, 3 to 8 points on your driver's license. Well, yeah, David, you do DoorDash and Uber driving, so I can see you doing that. Now, Iowa, I believe it, Iowa of all states, they've come out with a law that bans cell phones and other devices from being used while driving unless they are in the hands-free mode. Again, until it causes a problem, if you are it's like anything else. You've got a small percentage of the population causing a problem. So what do? They pass a law that affects everybody. They take out this huge ass hammer. Why not say, all right, if you are caught distracted driving, if you cause an accident because you were on your cell phone, if you hit somebody because you were on your cell phone, if you're weaving in and out of the lane because you're on your cell phone or eating or whatever, that's what's illegal. Just holding your phone in your hand and not doing anything wrong other than holding the phone. You would think that these lawmakers had never raised children. Johnny, you can't. Johnny, you've got a knife in your hand. Be careful. Johnny, you got a pair of scissors in your hands. Be careful. Don't run with them. Johnny, I told you not to run. Now I'm going to spank you. I'm not going to spank you because you got the scissors in your hand, because you're not doing nothing wrong holding those scissors. It was the running while holding the scissors that's going to cause you to get a spanking. Now, that's the over control that our government and state governments, county governments, city governments. I don't like these laws. I don't now. I don't like seatbelt laws. I don't like helmet laws. I used to ride motorcycle. I rode motorcycle for many years. 9 times out of 10, I always wore a helmet because I valued my brain. I valued my head. But I had a cop want to write me a ticket because I had parked my motorcycle at the end of my driveway to drain, because my driveway was at an angle. So I wanted to drain my radiator. Yes, I had a Honda Silverwing. It had a radiator. So I parked it at the end of the driveway at it where it was at an angle where I could drain the radiator. Then I refilled it, got on it, and rode it up the drive into my garage. He wanted to write me a ticket for riding my bike without a helmet on my driveway. He pulled up, turned on his lights, and wanted to write me a ticket. You're exactly right, old guy. So anyway, but that's not the only law coming into effect here. That came into effect today. Just looking at Florida laws. Let's look at some Florida laws here real quick. All right, 120 new laws came into effect starting today. All right, 120 new laws just in the state of Florida. Weather modification repeals the state's ability to issue permits for geoengineering and weather modification. Also prohibits the release of chemicals or apparatuses into the state's atmosphere that are intended to affect the weather, temperature, or intensity of sunlight. That could be good, that could be bad. Gold and silver are now legal tender in the state of Florida. I mean, while I like that idea, I mean, because I know people that own gold and own silver. But now we're going to go back to the old days of people having to weigh it out and test it for its purity in order to, be able to use it. Here's a good law. Now this is what I was talking about a good law that punishes the actual action, the illegal action. Starting July 1st, Florida drivers caught speeding more than 50 miles over the posted limit could face jail time. 30 days in jail, a 500 for the first offense. 30 days, $500 fine. If you're caught again within 5 years, 90 days and a $1,000 fine and a 6-month suspension of your driver's license. That's a good law. That's a law targeted at somebody actually doing something dangerous. The Pam Rock Act. According to the bill, dangerous dog is defined one that seriously injures a person that requires owners to keep the dogs confined. Again, now this is, just because you have, say, a pit bull, that doesn't mean you have to keep it confined. It's one that has seriously injured someone. And once it's injured somebody, then it's enters the registry of dangerous dogs. The owners are then required to carry $100,000 liability insurance. Increased penalties for the owners, stricter enforcement, allows authorities to hold the dogs during investigations, and permit euthanasia for dogs responsible for these severe injuries. Dexter's Law. Dexter's Law was because of a dog during a hurricane evacuation. Some individual tied their dog to a fence. I believe it was a barbed wire fence, and abandoned the dog. State trooper went and found the dog. And rescued it. The law also codifies penalties for failing to provide confined animals with food, water, and exercise, or for abandoning the animal, misdemeanor of a first degree with fines. And if there's aggravated cruelty involved, then it's a 1.25 sentence multiplier. Also creating Florida's first animal abuser database to prevent abuse and protect communities. Yeah, you're convicted of abusing animals once, you can't own anymore. I like that. Gulf of America. That's one of the excuse me. School effective today, schools will no longer be allowed to say Gulf of Mexico. School teachers and everybody, school books have to refer to it as Gulf of America. Stupid law. Stupid, stupid, stupid. Banning fluoride, okay. Repealing a law requiring school start times across the state. Again, leave it up to the local communities. The state doesn't need to be dictating everything. Like, I don't believe the federal government should dictate everything. Neither should the state. The state should leave a lot of things up to the local communities. I've said that for a long time. What is it? The government that governs the best is the one that governs the least. Now, this one I'm kind of curious about. I meant to look it up and forgot to. What are they calling an infant safety device? That hospitals, fire departments, etc., are required to have an infant safety device that people can drop unwanted babies off into. And they've got to have a surveillance system to monitor the device 24/7. What I don't understand what they're determining to be an infant safety device. Sure, you're right. I mean, it may be, but it doesn't say. Swatting. If you are caught swatting now, you go to jail. The increased penalties for people behind fake phone calls and even more for repeat offenders. I would love to see people going to jail for making bad phone calls. And some of the worst people that I'd want to see go to jail. And a lot of some of y'all are probably going to disagree with me. But the ones that call the police and say that somebody is out panhandling when they're just sitting out there, they're saying that somebody's out asking for money or stopping people on the street when they're not, just because they want the police to come out and chase them off the sidewalk. All right. It's a difference only in degree between calling the police on somebody standing on the sidewalk in front of your business with a camera and calling the police on someone saying that they've got a kidnapped person. Both calls are fake calls. It's only a difference in degree. And both should be punished with a difference in degree. A $500 fine for calling the police on somebody with on the sidewalk in front of your business that you don't want there because you don't like them standing there with the camera, versus 10 years in prison for saying somebody's got kidnapped or has killed people in their home when they haven't. Squatting. God, squatting's gotten to be such a huge problem in this country. Another thing that's going on, and I've been looking into getting protection for, is title protection to keep people, because that's another up and coming crime, is people, counties don't really check to see if you really sold your property. They just accept, that title change. But, you know, for the squatters though, they no longer takes months to remove somebody from your property that if they're not supposed to be there. Living in your apartment, living in your house, living in your basement or whatever. And the SB 606 helps restaurants and hotels get rid of guests, allowing the police to arrest a guest who remains in an establishment after being provided notice to leave. As y'all know, I work in a hotel. We've had that problem where we called the police to have them remove somebody from the room because they've either caused excessive damage, their paid stay was up, and we weren't going to rent to them any further. We wanted them to leave, and they refused to leave. And the police have been in the past sorely limited on what they could do to get them out of the hotel room. Well, this new law gives the police more ability to remove people from hotel rooms when they're not supposed to be there anymore. And I like it. The Voter Freedom Bill. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so tired going out fishing with friends and having the fish and game people pull you over for a quote unquote inspection. You've done nothing wrong. You haven't been causing a wake in a no wake zone. You're not weaving back and forth. You're just sitting there minding your own business, and have the fish and game come up and check on you. Fury, we are our own private security. At least I was the private security for the hotel until I no longer worked every day, until I went into semi-retirement. But yeah, but yeah, we end up, in all seriousness, we end up calling the police at least twice a month, starting from spring break through November 1st, to have them remove people from the hotel because they won't leave. They won't check out when they're supposed to. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Checkout was 11, and they still won't leave. And we've got to get that room cleaned and ready for the next guest that's going to be there at 3. So I'm not sure the driver's license laws requires adults applying for a driver's license to complete a traffic law and substance abuse education course. They're piling expense upon expense upon expense here. Yeah, I understand the reasoning behind it, but the state doesn't offer these classes for free. You can't just go online and take the class for free. You got to pay for it, in addition to paying for your driver's license. That's just expense upon expense upon expense. Yeah, Fury, I know you guys over there, your driver's license laws are, to get one is you've got to be an acrobat with all the hoops you got to jump through to get a driver's license in the UK. I've learned that the hard way. When I was in Germany, my international license was not valid in the UK anywhere. It was good for the continent, for the European continent, but was not good for the UK. Because of the Second Chance Act, they requiring students to complete at least one EKG before they can play in sports. That's that's not part of the basic physical that we had to get when we were kids. When I was a kid to play in sports, you just went, basically the doctor, listened to your heart, took your blood pressure, fondled your nuts while you coughed, looking for hernias, and that was the end of it. That was the weird part, the hernia check. But now having to get an EKG in order to play, yeah, I know there have been some people who've dropped dead of a heart attack while playing sports. That's usually at the collegiate level, not the high school level. Um, school security guards have to be trained and improved by the local sheriff. I think that's a good idea, especially if they're going to be armed guards. I think that they should be, go through the same training, Holocaust Remembrance Day. This one I'm really upset with. Okay, now the people the exempts law enforcement, correctional officers, and service members from the 3-day mandatory waiting period after buying a firearm. Yeah, okay. I'm against that 3-day mandatory waiting period that's in the Florida Constitution anyway. That was passed under Lawton Chiles, if I remember correctly. But the Florida lawmakers approved a ban on students in elementary and middle schools from using cell phones during the school day and testing the ideas in high schools. The cell phone charge change was included in the broader education bill. My problem with this is that, students shouldn't be allowed to use cell phones during, have their cell phone out during class. Okay, that's a distraction. The teacher should, and especially testing, when they're, looking up answers to the test. But there's been too many times where that student recording that teacher has been the thing that actually, got that teacher fired. That teacher who never should have been involved with these kids in the first place. The teacher making inappropriate comments. The teacher uh, expressing their personal political views, or teaching things in direct, teaching CRT, uh, pushing racism, pushing sexism in the classrooms. And of course, the students complain about it, and the teacher, I never did that, and the school believes the teacher. It was only because of the students recording that teacher doing it that anything was done. And until they put cameras in all the classrooms with an audio feed that parents can listen in on what's going on in the classroom, and besides that, in the worst case scenario, student needs to be able to call 911. Yeah, Fury, the Holocaust Remembrance Day has caused a bunch of, did cause some people to get a little upset over that. How much does rabbit and chicken wire cost? I have no idea. So I'm not real keen on this idea of the state banning cell phones. Students have the cell phones in their in under their control during the school day. I'm not getting into the condo thing. Execution methods. State of Florida allows a death penalty to be carried out using any method not deemed unconstitutional, such as firing squads and lethal gas. I am really curious if they include hanging, if hanging's been declared unconstitutional. I wonder if they've actually declared hanging unconstitutional. But yes, don't limit the death penalty. It's, I have not read that much on the SB 910 cracks down on bad faith actors taking advantage of veterans. Maybe I haven't. I haven't found the benefits process to be that complicated until I was getting ready to turn 65 and spend it. Well, when I turned 64, I started researching what I was going to have to do when I turned 65 for medical, because I lost my TRICARE as my primary insurance. This law I absolutely love. Third-degree murder for anybody under 18 years old who legally distributes controlled substances that results in an overdose. Cocaine, opium or any derivative of opium, methadone, alfentanil, carfentanil, or fentanyl, sufentanil, or methamphetamine. This new murder category constitutes a third-degree felony. That's just laws, and that's just some of the laws in the state of Florida. Nationally, there's been some decent laws go into effect today. The Lake and Riley Act. Okay. Mandating the detention of illegals who've been accused of certain crimes, such as theft and DUI. Okay. In my personal opinion, if you're here in the country, it should be hard for y'all to believe this. If you're here in the country illegally and you're caught in any criminal act, you remain in custody until you're actually deported. You can't get out of jail until you're deported. And if you're here illegally, there should be no going before a judge and pleading your case. If you entered our country illegally, you should be, it should be automatic. You're deported. No ifs, no ands, no buts, no questions, no pleadings, no begging. You're deported. Because there's enough legal ways for somebody to enter the country that if you if you entered illegally, you should be an automatic deported. It's like that woman that overstayed her visa 40 some odd years ago. She was recently arrested, and I believe she's been deported. 40 some odd years ago, she overstayed her visa. She's been, rather than trying to get a green card and stay legally, her and her husband have been trying to get her in under refugee status, and constantly, chronically, every time had the refugee status denied. But rather than getting a lawyer and going and trying to get to be legal another way, she just stayed here illegally for 47 years. Got married, grew old, had children, had grandchildren. And now everybody's upset that she got deported. She's in the country illegally. And other than trying to, numerous attempts to get refugee status, which was always denied, she never tried any other way to get legal. I'm not going to shed a tear that she lived for 47 years in the United States illegally. How many presidents is that? How many presidencies is that? 11, 12 presidencies she lived in the States illegally. And every president, even Biden, deported some illegals. Yeah, it may have been Ford. But every president. So again, the Lincoln Riley Act is a good thing. It's another way of getting illegals out of the country. Now, I like I quote unquote like the way that they are labeling this: laws restricting transgender rights and LGBTQ plus protections. They're not restricting their rights. They're just saying they don't get special rights anymore. They're not given special rights. They have to play by the same rules everybody else in the country has to play by. You're not treated special because you think that you got born in the wrong body. You're lucky, in my personal opinion, you're not institutionalized. Because that's a mental condition as far, it's a mental condition. Now, this change affects the access to federal benefits, legal identification, and workplace rights, leaving many transgender individuals without essential protections. Montana's House Bill 121 reinforces this by mandating public restrooms and sleeping areas remain strictly sex segregated based upon biological sex. Since when, and let's face it, most of these transgender people are men thinking they're women, wanting to go into women's dressing rooms, women's bathrooms, women's sleeping areas. Now, Hungary just banned pride events and allows authorities to use facial recognition technology to identify attendees. I, hey, that's Hungary. They're not saying you can't be gay. They're not saying that it's illegal to be gay. They're just saying that we're not going to have pride events. Now, I'm seriously questioning here the battle of over free speech and abortion information. Y'all know I'm against abortion. 99% of the abortions, I believe, are not necessary. If it's for the life of the mother, and it's going to come down to a choice between the mother living or the baby living, all right, that is a heart torn decision that families have to make on sometimes. And while I pray that never has to happen, I know it's going to happen sometime, and that's up to the family to make. If they're going to risk the mother dying and letting the baby survive. That's, but most abortions aren't that. Most are it's that simple. Most abortions aren't that. Abortion, freedom of speech is very important to me. I am not a absolutionist that you've got the right to say anything you want, whenever you want, however you want. I'm not an absolutionist in that. There are, time, place, and manner. I'm a firm believer in time, place, and manner. But I mean, even on my stream, if I invite you on the stream and you drop the F-bomb, I'm not going to sit here and bounce you for it. Now, if you start saying, F your religion, now I'm going to bounce you. Time, place, and manner. People have the right to believe what they want to believe until the point that their belief affects other people's rights, like their right to live or their right to free speech. That's why I have such a problem with one of the reasons I have such a problem with the Muslims and the Islam is they don't have that same belief. DEI, of course, DEI never should have been a thing. that is racism or sexism under government mandate. So binary trigger guns. Now, what a binary trigger gun is, a gun that when you squeeze, it's still it's still not automatic fire. It's still semi-automatic. However, what a binary trigger does is when you squeeze the trigger, it fires one round. Then when you release the trigger, it fires another round. Yeah, Fury, and the C bomb that y'all drop over, that you and the Aussies drop, that's that was a bit of a shock the first time I worked with a Brit group, a British maintain aircraft maintenance group. I don't own a binary triggered weapon. I probably won't own a binary triggered weapon. But just because I won't own it doesn't mean that I support making it illegal. I'm also all for making, hey, you want to own a fully automatic firearm, no problem. The government shouldn't be telling you can't own a fully automatic firearm. Owning the weapon itself does not make you a bad person. It's how you use it. Florida and Texas. I don't know why they don't have Florida on here, but because Florida's law already went into effect. If you're trying to get on a porno site in Florida or Texas, you have to do age verification now. You actually have to provide, you can't do it anonymously under your handle, like I can't go on there as Original Shroom or any other name. I have to actually give them my driver's license. Prove who I am. Give them my real name before you can get on Pornhub or any of these other porn sites. And Texas has done the same thing. And they're saying they're doing that to keep children off the porn sites. It's not the government's job to keep children off porn sites. That's up to the parents. That's up to the parents to keep children off porn sites. Exactly, Fury. Don't blame the firearm, blame the operator. The same, just like, just because I'm holding a cell phone in my hand, that doesn't mean I'm distracted driving. Wait until I do something illegal and then come after me, not after what I used. I mean, the UK now are selling knives that are guaranteed not to puncture skin. For kitchen knives, for you to use in your kitchen, either at the dining room table or to cook with, to cut meat with. They're being sold under the premise that they can't be used to puncture the skin. They can't be used to stab someone. So there's, but again, this is up to the parents to just to make, make certain that their home computers, laptops, and such can't access a porn site if they don't want their kids to access it. Again, when my son was a minor and living in my house, the only computer he was allowed to use was the one in the living room. And it was situated in such a way that his mother and I could see the screen whenever he was on it. So we knew exactly what he was looking at on that computer. He didn't have internet access back to his in his room. He didn't have cable back in his room either. So this is up to the parents. It's not up to the state. I hate it when the state becomes a nanny state. That's absolutely ridiculous. Now, one of the good laws that California has actually come up with, and I totally agree with this one here. New laws seek to prevent the use of digital replicas of Hollywood actors and performers without permission, and to allow the estates of dead performers to sue over unauthorized AI use. We've seen ads out there that there's no human involved in the ad. It's AI. And sometimes you can notice it if you look at how the hand is holding something, especially if it's like a handle. You see the handle popping through the hand. But some of these AI ads are getting extremely well done. And there's no person there. It looks like a person, it acts like a person, it sounds like a person, but it's all computer generated. And like they'd use computer generation for de-aging an older actor to, what was that? The Ant-Man movie where they de-aged one of the actors to make him look a lot younger for a portion of the movie. And now that was fine for that movie because, the actor agreed to it and he was getting paid for it. But let's say somebody, they used John Wayne. They used AI of John Wayne in a commercial a few years back. The John Wayne estate sued to get the money, get paid for that. There's been actors and actresses out there, or foretelling the death of their jobs. Especially bit roles. The walk-ons, the background crowds will soon all be AI. They won't be real actors, and that's where a lot of actors get their start. Just being that walk-on, being that background character, staying there reading a newspaper or something, or walking by. So, Fury, I believe it was Australia a few years ago wanted to make it illegal for men to lie to women when they picked them up at a bar. Made it illegal for them to lie about what their jobs were, how much money they made, et cetera, et cetera. That was a bill that was actually going through the Australian government, and it was going to pass until one of the men put up a corresponding bill saying that women couldn't lie to men by what kind of makeup they were wearing and what kind of undergarments that they were wearing to reshape their body to make their boobs look bigger or their hips look smaller or their waistlines look smaller. And needless to say, both bills died rather quickly after that. Yet, you're right. You don't have to build sets and backgrounds when everything is digital. They just put up a big green screen or blue screen, and everything is done by the computer. So, parents who profit from social media posts featuring their children be required to set aside earnings for the young influencers. A new law allows children to sue their parents for failing to do so. Thank you, California. So, I just went across a few of the laws here in Florida, specifically since I live in Florida. But, California and then some national laws that all went into effect today. And of course, like old guy, don't you live up in Alaska, or is that tall man that lives up there? Anyway, look up your local state, see what laws went into effect today. And just remember, this is 3 days. 4th of July is right around the corner here. The day we celebrate independence from a monarchy. And we've got our government passing laws like this to restrict our rights. I'm just saying. I am just saying. Oh, Retro's in Alaska. Okay. You're in Washington. So, but anyway, I've got to run, guys. Real life is going to be calling on my door here in about an hour and a half. But thanks for coming out. These new laws are getting crazy. But I'm serious. Look at what's going on in your state. And Washington, old guy, man, oh man. I'm afraid to think about some of the laws that happen up there in Washington. But y'all have a good day. Enjoy yourselves. Let's see. Tomorrow is Wednesday, so I'll be back on Thursday. I've got an all-dayer tomorrow. So y'all be good. Have fun. Thanks for coming out and listening to me. And as always, be with the ones you love and love the ones that you're with. Bye now.